Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to share with you my top 5 favorite eyeshadow palettes of all time. So I'm going to be ranking my palettes, tell you which ones are my favorites and when I like to use them. So if you guys are interested in hearing about my top 5 favorite eyeshadow palettes, then just keep on watching. So I'm going to start off at the bottom of the list with number 5 and then work my way up to number 1 and let you guys know why they rank that way. But I feel bad even having one of these palettes as number 5 because it's like still my favorite. I think of it like apples are my least favorite fruit, but they're still good. So this is still one of my favorites even though it's at the bottom of the list, and it's the Tarte Tartelette in Bloom palette. This is a $46 palette. It took me a while to get this palette. I got it maybe a year after it was released. This was all I wore in the fall and winter. I haven't worn it in a while and now I'm like, is it number 5? But yes, it's number 5. I went through the list. I like did pros and cons to everything. But the reason that this is number 5 is because it's more cool tone. It has shades that aren't my favorite year-round, basically. Like, you do get some neutral shades in here that you could wear throughout the spring and summer. Of course, you could wear anything, anytime. I do all the time. But it doesn't have shades that really translate really nicely into summer looks for me. So I've kind of put this on a back seat because I have other palettes that have shades that work well with me all year long. But I love this palette because the formula is really great. It's super blendable. You guys can see like these shimmer shades in here, the 3 shimmer shades, this one, and this one. I use those so much. You can see there's like a dent in all of them, and I really like this like cool tone row, and that's how they work. They work really nicely like row by row. I just love this palette, and now I'm like wanting to start using it again, but it's been on the back burner because I have my other 4 palettes that I've been using even more. And I don't have the original Tarte palette, the all matte palette, but I really like this one, and I didn't want to get that one because I never wear just matte shadows. But this has some really great shimmers. I would like it more if there was more than just 3 shimmers. I wish there was maybe one more, and I also wish there was one more medium tone color. I feel like you get a lot of dark shades, you get some like really light shades, but I just wish there was one more medium shade, one more shimmer shade, so you could add a little bit more variety and not just like those cooler looks or cranberry colors. But if those are the shades you're into, this formula is definitely great, and I wear it all the time in the fall and winter, not so much during the spring and summer. The next number 4 is the Modern Renaissance palette, and I use this palette a lot. I use it a whole lot, and now I'm making myself not use it as much because my favorite shades are running out. They are not sold as single shadows, and I don't know what to do myself once I run out of them. But I see myself actually repurchasing this palette, honestly. The reason it's number 4, I never use this. You guys can probably tell I never use this side of the palette. I maybe dip my brush into this shade and maybe a little bit of the brown shade, like a little dot to put into my outer corner. Then this side of the palette, I wear at least once a week. Like if I am just gonna do a neutral eye, don't wanna think about it, this side of the palette is where I go to. I don't have to think about what transition shade I want to use, what color I want to use on my lid. I don't have to worry about what it's going to look like because it's going to look great because this formula is amazing. This palette is good for everybody. You get those light shades, you get darker shades. It's great for any skin tone. It's great for any age because you get really pigmented shadows. They're super easy to blend out. They're very creamy, and the shimmers are not chunky at all, so they look good on anybody. And I also think it's super beginner friendly. If you've never used an eyeshadow in your life, if you put down one of these transition shades and just like swipe it like 2 or 3 times, it's gonna look like you've been doing it for years because the formula is absolutely amazing. I just really impressed with the Anastasia formula, especially nowadays, because I have some of their older palettes, but this is the one that has really stepped it up. I also have the Mario palette. I have a review comparing this to the Mario palette that's no longer available. But I do plan on getting that Subculture palette that's going to be released soon, and I'll compare it to this palette. That's why I'm not using these as much, so I could swatch those shades in that review for you guys. It's probably not going to come out for a few months, but I'm already looking forward to it because the formula of this is amazing. If you're somebody that likes really colorful shades, you're probably going to have this higher on your list than I do. But for somebody who really just likes neutrals, like these 6 shades especially are worth the price of this whole palette for me because they're so beautiful, so blendable, and they just are very, very flattering colors. And then number 3 on my list is a throwback palette that I still use on a weekly basis as well, and it's the Semi-Sweet palette from Too Faced. And I do have a whole review video on my channel comparing all the chocolate bar palettes. I'll link it above me and below me, and you guys can check that out if you're interested in this palette or how it compares to the other chocolate bar palettes. I love this one. It's really warm toned. It doesn't look so exciting compared to all these crazy palettes that are coming out nowadays, but this is such a staple palette because you get some really great matte tones for transition shades for like an outer V. So it gives you a lot of good variety of how intense you want an eye look. It's very neutral, but you can, there's a lot of variety in how dramatic you want it to be, basically. I just love it because I love warm tones. I feel like they're really flattering on me. It's super bronzy, which I like. And the shade that I actually like the most in this palette is supposed to be like a brow bone highlight, but I wear it on my lid all the time. This is the shade Butter Pecan, and it's said to be basically the same shade as Champagne Pop, the highlighter. And it's so subtle, but it looks so good on the lid. I think I did a get ready with me using this palette. If I didn't, I might be making that up. I will do an Instagram tutorial so I can show you guys how I like to use it. But I really like how this shade opens up your eyes, and then you also get some really great neutral transition shades and warm transition shades. So you get a good variety of how, like the tone of your look and also how dramatic you want to make it. I love Butter Pecan, and then Mousse as my transition shade, and Cocoa Chili as my outer V. That's like my solid like 5-minute, I don't need to think about it, neutral eye look that I wear a lot. If you guys want to see that, I'll definitely do an Instagram tutorial on it. So I really love this palette. I definitely think it's a staple, especially if you like warmer eyeshadow tone. So next, number 2 is a little bit hard for me to say. This is number 2 because it was number 1 for over a year. You guys might know what palette I'm talking about. It's the Sweet Peach palette. I can't make this number 1 anymore. I like thought about it and I just went through my palettes, and this is now my number 2 palette. But let me tell you why it was number 1. A, because I loved it so much when it came out. There was so much hype behind it. I have a strong emotional attachment to this palette of anything in my makeup collection. It was one of the palettes I used on my wedding day, so it just reminds me of the whole like being a bride process, being engaged. I used it all the time. And now it's number 2 because there's just a lot of shades in here that I never use. I still love this palette. I don't mean it. I still love this palette so much. I feel like really bad like as a person, but I just don't use a lot of these purpley tones. I did a tutorial with one, but they're not the shades that I'm going to gravitate towards. I really just use like 6 or 7 shades in this palette, which is still a lot, but it's not anything that's super life-changing compared to some other neutral shades that I have. Like some of these are very similar to my Semi-Sweet palette. I do love the formula. I cannot say anything bad about the formula at all. I think all the shadows perform beautifully. So I really love the formula. I do love all the colors. I just don't use them all. It's kind of like my Modern Renaissance palette where I'm just using like the same 6 shades over and over. So basically I realized that I'm just using these neutral browned champagne tones in the palette, and then everything that's making this palette a little bit more exciting, all of these purple shades, the pinks, the green in there, I never use those at all. They're just not tones that I really gravitate towards, and I am playing with more color with another palette that's my number 1 palette. But basically because I'm only using the neutral shades in here, that's why I bumped it down to number 2, even though it's still number 1 like emotionally in terms of what I look for in eyeshadow palettes, something that I can use every single day of my life. This has now become my number 2 palette. Still amazing though, still amazing. $49, just like all the chocolate bar palettes, and I do have that in my comparison video as well. So now moving on to my number 1 eyeshadow palette, and you've probably guessed it if you've been watching my channel for a little while, if you've been watching any of my videos this month on Instagram or on here, it's the Tarte Pro palette. I am living for this palette. This palette is amazing. So you get so many neutral shades, I think 16 neutral shades and then 4 shimmer shades. I could use some more shimmer shades, but the shimmer shades that are in here, I use them all. The transition shades, the matte shades that are in here, I basically use them all. I'm not using the darker purple shades. I haven't really messed with those yet, but basically all of these 16 shades I wear all the time, which is so different for me because usually I just wear like 4 shades in an eyeshadow palette, and this one I'm getting so much variety out of. So I recommend this palette a lot because you can do a lot of different looks with the colors that you have. They have so many shades that are pink and purple. You get those brown tones, like those safer colors, and then you also get that orangey tones, and you get some cooler tones as well. So you get a really great variety of matte shades. The shimmer shades are everything that I need. A light shimmer shade, a darker copper shimmer shade, and then this blue shade Trendy is so pretty. It just reminds me of like a mermaid's tail. It's so pretty. It has this like duochrome to it, and you just put it on the lid and it adds so much, and you don't even need to do too much. And that's what I love about eyeshadows that are really blendable, really creamy, that you don't have to make them work. I hate making makeup work. If you're spending a lot of money, this is $53, it better work. Like, that's a lot of money for some powders, you know? So it better work, and it better blend, and it better look nice on your lids. So I love this palette because I'm doing my makeup differently now that I have it. Like today I added some of this purple on like my outer V and some pinks in my transition, and some things that I don't have in some of my other palettes. Like I'm playing with neutral colors a little bit differently because of this palette. So I really like that it allows me to kind of experiment with different neutral looks and not just like light brown, champagne color. Like you get more than just that, but still get some neutral shades. So I really love it because you get a lot of perfect transition shades. You get basically all of this is like transition shades. You get some of those deeper tones that you need to finish out a look. And then the shimmers, I like them all. There's not a shimmer that I won't use in this palette. I kind of wish there was more, but I really just wish there was a pink tone, like a rose gold or something, and then I would be set. That would be like a perfect palette for me. So that's really all I'm missing from this, but this has the best variety in it out of all of the palettes that I mentioned for my preferences, because I love neutral palettes. I love neutral looks, but I also want to be able to create more than just like one basic neutral look with a palette. And I feel like with some of the palettes that I mentioned, I have like my go-to neutral look, and then other than that, the looks that I do with it are super dramatic, and I want to be able to like get somewhere in the middle with those looks. Something neutral, but it adds like a little pop of color, and I feel like I get that so much with this palette because I do get some variety with those pinks and purples, that green tone, silver, gold. You get it all basically with this palette. Alright guys, that's everything for today's video. I hope you enjoyed seeing my top 5 favorite eyeshadow palettes. Every palette that I listed will be in my description box if you guys want to check those out. Any video that I've made with any 5 of these palettes will be in my description box, as well as my eyeshadow palette collection and my chocolate bar palette comparison video for you guys to check out. Definitely let me know your favorite eyeshadow palette in the comments down below. And if you guys like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I'll talk to you guys soon in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.